What's up, horror fam?
You know what time it is. Let's get into this.
It's like we're professionals.
Right.
It's like we're professionals.
What's up, fucker?
And we finally know what we're doing here. Only been 4 years.
Yeah.
What's up, horror fam? It's your favorite podcast, the Horror Chronicles podcast.
Yeah.
I'm Ryan. This is JT. You guys know all this.
You know all this.
Hopefully,
We're just going to quit talking right now.
And maybe you don't know all this and you're new, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, newbie. You're the FNG.
And if you're here,
The fucking
thanks
new
for
guy.
being here.
Yeah.
Try to stay here.
Yeah, come on over here and cuddle.
Cuddle buddle. But anyways, guys, we got a good show tonight.
So Ryan says.
I think so. And my thoughts, all that matters. So
Yeah.
there we go. But yeah.
Yeah.
This is a fun one. And with all the stuff going on now and certain TV show that's popping and will be popping soon. With the new season. That is Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So tonight we're talking about a few things, but they all kind of connect together. And one of them we're going to give a little, we kind of talked about before, so we're going to give like a little brief synopsis of it because it actually is a precursor to the other ones. So we're going to get a little precursor to the Philadelphia experiment, and then we're going to get into Project Stargate, Project Montauk, and a few other things, MK Ultra, things like that.
Project Midnight Climax is Ryan's favorite.
Hey, man, you know.
I think it's a cool story.
I just talked to another person about that the other day, and I was like, here's one you can get into. It's pretty funny. And he's like, oh, I'm about to check that one out. And I'm like, yeah.
Operation Midnight Climax.
True story, too, bro.
Yes,
true story.
true.
So, yeah, we got some cool stuff tonight.
Fucking weird what our government does. Dude, right off the bat, I'm just going to say this. Dude, I can't tell you how many people have been waiting for us to do this episode, including us.
Yeah.
Including us. We've been trying to sit down and do this actual story for a couple months now, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
And
well,
it just keeps getting more and more chaotic, and, you know, so we said, you know what, we're just going to sit down and do it, and this is where we are. This may end up being a 2-part or a 3-part episode.
Right, and that's fine. If it has to be, then that just gives you guys more content. So, you know, I want to shout out to, because, I mean, one of the persons who really got me, I've always been interested in this, but someone who sparked our interest again because we talked to her was Jessica Jones, who is a remote viewer. And the Cryptid Huntress, you guys would know her as.
Yeah, if you guys get a chance, check her out. She's on YouTube. Just search the Cryptid Huntress, and she's on Facebook. Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress.
Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
So we've been on there too before.
What's the other one? Off the Porch or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Or On the Back Porch.
Yeah. Sorry, Jessica, we forgot that one.
Yeah, it's. I don't know.
Just be thankful we remembered everything else.
Off the cuff. No, Jessica is really cool, and she's very thorough, and her shows are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
So go check that out. But, yeah. So that kind of piqued my interest even more in this when we talked to her. And then, of course, Stranger Things. I love that series. And, you know.
Well, here, let's just talk about that
go ahead.
while we're at that point.
You do that.
So some of you may know, but some of you may not, that Stranger Things is highly, highly influenced by Project Montauk.
Well, it was almost named Montauk.
It was, like Ryan just said, when that series first came out, they were actually going to title it Montauk. But they, I think, honestly, I kind of have forgotten this, but I think it was their marketing department that talked them into changing it or something.
I'm sure it was the marketing department.
I think is what happened there. But it was a joint combination because the creators of the show also were like, you know, that's a great idea, you know, because at the time, Montauk, there was a book called the Montauk Project, and they didn't want to be pigeonholed just into that
Right.
thing. So Stranger Things is loosely based off the Montauk Project, but it was highly influenced by it. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and how this came about. And I'm just going to jump in right off the bat, and we're going to talk about the Philadelphia experiment, because this is truly what started this whole thing.
Right.
Our government has done weird and crazy stuff for a long time.
No.
But the Philadelphia experiment really ties into all of these things that we're going to talk to y'all about tonight. And the Philadelphia experiment, if you don't know what that is, we're not talking about the movie, which was a decent movie.
Right.
Michael Perrier? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Decent movie, but that's not what we're talking about when we talk about the Philadelphia experiment. What we're talking about is a government-led test to see if we could render a ship not only invisible to radar, but also invisible to the naked eye. And yes, I said naked.
Naked.
Because that's what we're into.
Bucket naked.
But anyway, so what they did is they chose a ship, and the ship that they chose was the USS Eldridge. The USS Eldridge was a new technology at the time. It was what they called a destroyer escort. It was a newer type of ship, and the reason why they designed this ship is because it could outmaneuver other ships. It was smaller, and it would go out with these destroyers. And what had happened is the Navy was getting tired of our ships being sunk by submarines and stuff. So these escort ships could actually outmaneuver the torpedoes and try and keep the destroyers up and going. So what they did is they got together with some scientists, and this is a big name here, Albert Einstein. They got together with Albert Einstein, and his theory was that he could create this machine that would magnetize the ship. We're gonna put this in real easy terms. He was gonna magnify the ship and try and make it invisible to radar, and also make it to where you couldn't be able to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I haven't even really read through my notes here because I've watched so much crap about this, dude. It's crazy. So, in July of 1943, they pull this ship into the harbor, into Philadelphia Harbor, and they wire it all up. They send out a skeleton crew to be on this ship. Nobody really knew what was going to happen. And the legend goes that they powered their magnetic field generator, and somehow the ship, it turned like this greenish color, and this green fog enveloped the ship. People that were there claim that, of course, you couldn't see the ship on radar anymore, but after a little while, the ship started blinking in and out, and then all of a sudden it was invisible. They couldn't even see it sitting in the harbor anymore. It was gone, I think, for 15 minutes. I think is what
I believe so.
The story was. And when it reappeared, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the ship.
Shit happened.
But there was some weird shit that happened to the crew. So when the ship reappeared, so the way this machine worked is it would break down the molecular integrity of the ship and make it disappear. Well, they didn't realize that was going to affect the humans that were on the ship. So the stories were that some of these seamen, some of these naval sailors that were on the ship ended up being infused to the hull. there were stories of some of the bodies just evaporating. Everybody on board got sick. And, of course, several people died during this experiment. And the weird thing about this story is that not only were they able to make the ship disappear, they were also able to make it teleport, which was a byproduct of what they were doing. That is not what they were trying to do. They just wanted to make the ship vanish. What ended up happening in the story, in the legend, what ended up happening is the ship ended up reappearing 300 miles south in North Carolina, in a harbor in North Carolina. And I'm sorry, forgive me, I cannot remember the name of that harbor. But it ended up appearing in that harbor 300 miles away. And there was actually someone that came forward that claimed to have been on a ship that was in that harbor, and they saw the ship appear in the middle of the harbor. And it sat there for a few minutes, and then it evaporated. And once it evaporated, it showed back up in Philadelphia.
Just like my father.
Bizarre story. Fact or fiction, it's up to you to figure out if you believe the story. But it is a cool story
whether
nonetheless.
Whether or not you believe the whole thing.
Right.
Part of it is 100% real and legit.
Right. Now, the reason why we wanted to bring this up is there were two guys on this ship that claim that when the ship started to disappear, they jumped off the ship. Now, they claim that once they jumped off the ship, they expected to hit water and be able to swim to shore. The problem was they never hit water.
Right.
What ended up happening, now I'm telling you folks, this was in 1943. Both of these men ended up coming ashore in Camp Hero, New York.
Which
the crazy thing was the time frame. It was now 1984. And Camp Hero sits right in the middle of Montauk.
Montauk Point, yep, Point Montauk.
And then that's where we get into.
So I think what we should do is, if you want to,
I want to.
We should do this episode on Montauk, Project Montauk, or we could do this episode on Stargate, whichever one you want to do.
Well, either way,
and then we could do, because honestly, we could I don't think we should rush through each one.
No. Well, and I just kind of wanted to rush through the Philadelphia experiment because we've already talked about that.
Yeah, but
I just wanted to give you a synopsis of where we're going here.
So I think we should. Which one you want? You want to do?
I say we go to Montauk.
You want to do Montauk first?
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll make this episode about Montauk, Project Montauk, and then we'll do another episode next week, and we'll do the Stargate. And that way we have,
an Operation Midnight Climax.
Yeah.
MK Ultra. We got to get it in there too.
Well, MK Ultra is going to be part of course, Project Montauk, but we can do a whole other episode on that as well. So I think we'll do the Montauk. Yeah. So you guys are going to get a good series of episodes here.
All right.
Coming out.
So JT's going to quit talking for a little while and let Ryan give you some lowdown here.
We're going to go into Project Montauk, okay? And like he talked about with the Philadelphia experiment, how they showed up at, it was originally called Fort Montauk. And then they changed the name to, what was the new name they gave it? Because it was Fort Montauk, and then they changed it into, I can't remember.
Well, it was Camp Hero.
Oh, and then Camp Hero, yes.
Or Montauk Air Force Station.
Yeah. So with Camp Hero, which is Montauk, they were doing. So this was a base. that was originated for like the Air Force and stuff like that to use. So they say that it was used for the Air Force to and the navals to be able to have a place that's right there on the water. They could see everything for miles and miles and miles.
Yeah, they had a big defense radar. Their big thing about that was they claimed that they could see an enemy approaching and give us a half-hour notice.
Right.
So that's pretty damn good.
So we'll get into like just what Montauk was there. So like he said, they had the giant so there was old school radar that they had, right?
Yeah, and in fact, it's still there. If you get online and look at it, there is the old radar that was built in the 1950s is still there.
Well, you can see
it's not in use anymore.
There's people who go in there. Like I watched a bunch of videos on YouTube of people who went in there. But anyways, so at this base on the outside of it, and what people perceived is that it was as a radar for the Air Force and the naval to be able to see in case someone was coming and all this stuff. However, there was a lot of stuff going on. So the radar system that they built, people started complaining about it messing with the TVs, messing with their cattle, messing with their livestock, and even messing with their dreams. So when this thing would start moving, when it was sitting still, it was okay. But when it started moving, because I know radar, it turns. And this radar we're talking about, guys, on top of this building was huge. It is. Yeah, you can still
enormous.
see it. It's
I don't
huge.
remember how big they said it was.
They said it weighed like freaking 11 ton or something like that. It was something ridiculous. Yeah, it was like 125. Yeah, it was huge.
It's like the size of a football field.
Yeah, it's huge. So when it started spinning, they started getting a lot of, like I said, they started getting all this stuff, all these complaints coming in of it affecting their livestock, affecting their dreams. And of course it was affecting, the TVs and stuff like that, which makes sense, right? Because if you think about it, like with the radar, it's putting out an energy field, basically, for lack of a better term for myself. And your brain is it's electronic, basically. It's electromagnetic. You know what I mean? It's got it's like electric. Right. It's like a computer. So of course it would make sense. It would make sense that this would affect your dreams. Or even it's your mental state, period. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're awake, I'm sure it happened to people when they're awake.
Well, and we talk about that going on now with like 5G signals and stuff.
Right.
Why do we not think as well as we did, years ago? And why are we all sick now? And
so like the reason why I'm super interested in this whole thing is because it's like everything I'm into. Multiple dimensions, freaking time travel, freaking, things coming out of these portals and things like that. So on the outside, people thought it was just a base, but really, most of the people had other things, and there's myths and things that they thought about it, and things that are coming out, and it got to the point where it was hard for them to keep covering up what happened.
It was. I just want to read something really quick.
Go ahead.
The Montauk Project alleges there were a series of United States government projects conducted at Camp Hero in Montauk, New York. The sole purpose for these was to develop psychological warfare techniques techniques and exotic research, including time travel.
And and that's a base synopsis for you guys who don't really know about it, but most of you guys probably do. So, with that being said, we're going to get into that. The fact of, the government, multiple agencies, CIA, We're going
to have to talk about that.
We'll be talking about it a little bit for sure.
Okay.
So, let's see where I want to go with this. Okay, so we already talked about how this sonar, basically, or radar was affecting people's dreams and livestock and things like that, which makes sense. But also, what was going on is things that. So, did you get into or did you hear about like the Lost Boys of Montauk and stuff like that? Like,
that does sound familiar.
Basically,
maybe I did see
so
that.
basically, they were talking about how the government and things like that were coming and swooping kids off the streets and getting in. Yeah, so this is where we get into MK Ultra a little bit, a lot of it, but we're gonna go deeper in MK Ultra on another episode. But it has to do with this, so we'll be talking about it some. So, okay, they started. This is, I guess, you would say.
Well, they started doing experiments.
This would be what you would be say the conspiracy theory, but it's really not, because part of this stuff is already out in the open. We know what happened, right?
Right.
Which is why
it's the unknown that we're talking about tonight.
Which is why they had to move to Plum Island and things like that after Montauk or Camp Hero got shut down.
Right.
So, anyways, supposedly they started. Then now we're going to use the word supposedly. We have our own feelings on things, but we can't. We're gonna use these words just because.
Because they're big.
Yes, and I sound smart. But no, so they supposedly would kidnap these kids off the streets, hookers, people that wouldn't be missed.
Right.
Right? Right. And then they started doing basically MK Ultra, I guess you would say.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You want to get into that, but that is really what this is all about, is this MK Ultra.
Right, but also with MK, there's a lot that goes into MK Ultra.
Oh, it does. It does.
So we'll get to go deeper into that on another episode. Yeah. But with the MK Ultra aspect of this is that they were trying to get these kids to basically be, psychological or what's the number I'm looking for? Anyways, like psychological warriors, soldiers.
Yeah. Basically what it was, so MK Ultra was the code name of a quasi-legal quasi, our government. The power just went out. Oh, sorry.
And we're back.
Anyway, it was all a human experimentation program designed and undertaken by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. Basically, what they would do is they would give these people LSD. They would force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture.
And see, that's more along the lines of the stuff we're going to get into when we talk about him. Yeah. In this situation, they were more along the lines trying to open up the third eye of the brain on these children. Because as you're younger, we've talked about this before, kind of like with adrenochrome and other things like that. As you're younger, your pineal gland is not so much corroded, and it's more open. And there are adults who are more open than that as well, but when you're younger, it's not calcified. You got to quit reading that.
Sorry, man. I was just reading this.
You're gonna get into
Jesus
it. Jesus
Christ.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
Wow.
Later on. So, but. Okay. As far as this goes,
I had forgot my notes on this.
So as far as this stuff goes with the Montauk project,
they
were basically using these children and turning them into weapons. So to link this up with Stranger Things, kind of, that's basically where they got this idea from, and I'm sure, like JT said, I'm sure it was the producers that wanted to change it.
The marketing
that wanted to change it, I'm sure. But anyways, so they would kidnap these kids and they would do these experiments trying to get them to, have psychic powers, be able to, move things with their mind, control people's minds.
Right. Well, one of the big things that they were really wanting to do was, and this is why we talked about this with Jessica Jones, they were getting into remote viewing.
Right.
And what they were doing is they were having people do remote viewing on high-ranking officials from other countries.
Right.
And they were doing it under the guise of government experiment, but what they really wanted was they wanted to know what these guys were up to, because they were going to send assassins after them.
And and not only that, but and we're going to get into that too next week when we talk about Stargate, because we at the time didn't know that we got, because they got into remote viewing in the 70s, because that's when we'll get into that. Yeah. But and Russia had been doing it since the 20s. which we'll get into that more whenever we
Right.
get into Stargate.
Oh my God, we got to do the sleep experiment. The
We,
Russian sleep.
We'll get into. We 100%
dude.
will, dude. For sure.
That won't go in with us. That's going to be its own separate
Yes,
entity.
but so with Project Montauk, so they got these children, and basically what you've seen on Stranger Things is kind of a good, as much as can be, as much as can be a representation of what went on inside of the actual facility, not necessarily the other things, which we're going to get into because that goes into like the Long Island Monster.
Right.
And things like that supposedly came out of these
Montauk experiments.
Right. So they wanted to get these kids to like JT was just saying, to be able to remote view into these, leaders of other countries and things like that, so we can tell what they're doing and what they're going to do ahead of time.
Right.
And we actually thought, which we'll get into it more once we start talking about Stargate next week, but like who was it? Charlie Rose was talking about how, and he was a congressman, I think.
Okay.
And he was talking about how if Russia has this ability, we need to have this ability.
Right.
And that's coming from a
because the
congressman
Russians can't have something we don't.
Right. So, and what's crazy about this whole story?
If the Russians got a little dick, we've got to have a little dick too.
I'm sorry. But no. So what's interesting about this too?
Hey, we had a John Holmes, and Russia wanted him.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. But anyways, so
hey, in another episode.
Yeah. But no. So with this one, what's crazy about it too is that there's still quite a few people alive who are part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one man who they've done a lot of interviews with, whether or not you believe him, but his name is Alfred Bialik.
Yep.
And he said he was the head of the Montauk Project.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I listened to some of the interviews, and when it comes to this stuff, guys, especially when you're interviewing people like this, you have to understand that this, like in this circumstance, this gentleman is older, like fairly older, right? So as you get older, you have mental decline sometimes, and not everyone, I know, not everyone, but most people have mental decline as they get older.
But in Al Bielik's defense, though, I mean, he was on the Philadelphia experiment ship.
Exactly.
And
so you can watch those interviews yourself, and I'll let you guys determine whether or not you believe. I believe most of what he says. So I'll leave it at that.
There have been some really good interviews with him,
right,
where he has talked in depth about some of the stuff that he witnessed.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I said, some of these people are still alive. So we can actually get, for what it's worth, their version of what they've seen. It's kind of like Bob Lazar with Area 151. Area 51.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of...
Area 151, that's a nightclub in St. Robert.
That's where I had my first fight at.
Oh!
That's why it's stuck
That's
in
where
my...
he lost his virginity.
Yeah.
I mean, it was to another dude, but hey.
Oh, shit. But anyways, it happens.
Oh, fuck.
But
sorry.
No. So, people have talked to, we'll call him Al. People have talked to Al, and he's said what he's seen, and a lot of it's kind of fucking... Well, a lot of it is, that's kind of where they got some of their stuff from for Stranger Things. You know what I mean? Those firsthand accounts. And, like I said before, they would take kids sometimes off the streets and things like that. And there's a guy who says that he was one of those children. And did you get into him? Stuart Swedlow?
No.
Or Swidlow. So Stuart Sidlow or Swedlow, can't remember how to say his last name. He's, for years, his parents took him out. They went out to Montauk Point, or Point Montauk. And ever since he was little, he would tell everybody that he got taken. But people just made fun of him, didn't believe him, all the stuff. So he kind of shut down about it. And he's actually in this... there's a documentary that I watched, and I can't remember it. Freaking word. Why am I drawing a blank? So I watched so many documentaries and like little shorts and YouTube videos about this that's all freaking blending in. But anyways, he talks about how he was taken there and they did experiments on him. And this all kind of links up too with, so think of it like The Shining, right? So we have The Shining.
Stuart Swerdlow.
Swerdlow. That was his name. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Swerdlow, yeah.
However you pronounce it. but so yeah, I watched some interviews with him. And I believe somebody, I think something happened to him. And he was so young that maybe he just doesn't know and can't. But he got pretty in-depth about what happened. You know, it's one of those things that, like, I think something happened to him. Whether or not it's 100% what he said happened, I don't know.
Right.
I believe something happened to him. But there were a lot of people that went missing. And then, you know, like I was talking about, like with The Shining, they look for people that have that power, that put off that mental power.
Yeah.
You know? And that's something they can trace and track. It's crazy how they put everything in film like that.
Our government at work.
You know what I'm saying? 100%. So, of course, these people, it's funny to me because you hear this a lot. Oh, if something like that was going on, someone would have said something. A lot of people do say stuff.
A lot of people say stuff.
And then they wind up either dead or they wind up gone or missing. Like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, especially this story because it got really big in the 1980s.
And which is why,
you know,
they eventually had to.
That's another reason why Stranger Things is in the 80s.
Right. And, you know, the reason why stuff started happening, or Camp Hope got kind of, or Camp Hero got freaking kind of stopped and shut down, and they moved it to a place called Plum Island, where they did a lot of research on time travel on Plum Island. That was the main thing there, was their research in time travel. But anyways, we're not talking about Plum Island right now, which we could even do research into that and have another episode on that one, which I think would be a great.
We'll talk about that later, but it'll end up coming out before this episode. Because it's time travel.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
But anyways, no, so, like I said, Al Bielek, he said he headed some of these projects.
Oh, he gave it head, all right.
He headed it out. So I'm guessing he would be the character of the doctor guy in Stranger Things.
Yeah. So just real quick, the Montauk experiment stories seem to have originated with the highly questionable account of Peter Nichols and Al Bielek, or Bielek, however you say that guy's name, who both claimed to have recovered repressed memories of their own involvement. Preston Nichols, who claims that he was periodically abducted to continue his participation against his will.
I learned all about him too. Yeah, and you know, that's what I was getting into, is that they keep these people. It makes you wonder when they say there's people out there who are schizophrenic or whatever, or maybe there's other
Are they
things.
really, or
yes.
do they really know what's going on?
Maybe there's other things going on. You know, some people have mental issues that are psychotic and schizophrenic, but maybe some of them just have been affected in ways. I mean, what better way to not trust someone or believe someone if you say, "Oh, he's just crazy."
Yeah.
You know, and their minds have been messed with. I have a friend who's very, very intelligent. Sometimes he goes off on these tangents, and you're like, "You got to calm down, bud. You got to."
I can't help it.
You know. I didn't say it's not intelligence to go off on porn and tangents. But no. So what they did here and what they were working on.
I'm going to tell you right now, don't type in Al Bielek in Pornhub.
It gets a little weird.
Yeah.
But anyways,
you'll end up going back in time.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, you know, how they got to doing these experiments and working on some of these kids and they did a lot with reverse engineering. They did this Montauk project and Point Montauk Camp Hero. They were working with reverse engineering of things they found at Roswell, supposedly. Which,
I did remember hearing about some of that.
Yes, which would lead them into being able to. Man, I can't wait. When we talk about Stargate, our next episode, when we talk about Stargate, you guys are going to hear a lot of stuff that's.
And we're not talking about the big circle in the woods that you walk through.
Yeah, well, But anyways,
it was a good movie though.
But yeah, so once we start talking about it next week, you'll get a lot more understanding of what's going on. But they would reverse engineer this stuff, and that's how they got these certain technologies and things they could work with to open up portals and things like this. And like, what's the name of the chair? There was a There was a chair they sat these people in on Montauk, and they would strap them in, and basically that's how they would open it. They would use someone's mind once it's actually open to open up portals and things like that.
Gotcha.
Which brings out the Long Island Monster and things like that people say they seen, roaming around it, and there's always been the legend, I guess you would say, that it came from Montauk, and it came from them. What's underneath Montauk? Because there's a bunch of tunnels underneath there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy with Montauk. They actually had the ability to they had all these tunnels and this network of labs and stuff to where they could get from one institute on there. So when we talk about this Camp Hero
and Montauk,
Camp Hero is huge. It is basically 700 square miles.
Yeah, isn't it like 700 acres? 700 acres.
I'm sorry, 700 acres. And it was actually used by the Air Force for a while.
Right.
As a base.
So
and from stories that I've heard, there are all these weapons underground that they would occasionally fire off just because they could.
Right, and that was affecting a lot of people and a lot of things around there.
Yeah, because they were saying these cannons, when they would set these cannons off, it would break windows in the towns 6 miles away.
Right.
Crazy. We're talking big guns.
Big guns, kick the hell out of you. Sorry, AC/DC kicked in my head when you said that. I love that song. That's one of my weightlifting songs. But anyways.
Hey, you know how to keep a bunch of fuckers in suspense? We'll tell you next week when we talk about Stargate.
But no, so what's cool about the Montauk Project and Camp Hero and stuff like that is that there's a lot of information out there that is legit information that you can go and get and you can do research on, and it's real proof that something was going on there. Like I said, which is why it got shut down in early 90s is when they shut down, or was it even earlier than that? I can't remember. I think it was in the early 90s is when they shut it down, and they moved everything to Plum Island.
I think you're right.
95, I think, or something like that. And they moved it all to Plum Island, I believe.
Yeah, because I had just heard about that.
Right. And what I find interesting and cool about this is the whole opening up the portals to a different dimension thing. And that's what was cool when you seen, for most people, when they watch Stranger Things, they're like, oh, this is cool. It's a new TV show about this and that, and it's just cool. It's a new horror TV show, which is awesome, which is what it was. However, being someone, which most of you guys probably are, who knows about Montauk and stuff like that, it was like, holy shit, this is cool. They're actually going into and then you get this put together, what's going on in there and who the players are and stuff like that. And it's just kind of cool. And granted, Hollywood takes a lot of liberties with what they do, which is fine. It makes it for good TV. But getting into the realness of it, for me, as a multidimensional guy, it's really cool because it gives somewhat validation to what I believe, to have all these people, plus there's actual proof of some not necessarily a multidimensional thing, but what the government thought was real and what they were actually doing research on. You know what I mean? I think they spent freaking millions of dollars on these researches and shit that,
absolutely. Our government likes to blow money.
Yeah, give $700 for a hammer.
Yeah.
But
I spent $700 on getting hammered.
So my wife last night, she had a girls' night at her friend's house. They had a sleepover. So you got all these 30-year-old women drunk as fuck at a house.
That's when you walk in there swinging your dick.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. They're all freaking puking everywhere. Fuck that.
Fucking helicopter.
Krista came home today. She was like, I feel like shit. So I ran her a bath and got her all stuck. She was actually sleeping when I left the house. I let her sleep. She fell asleep. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, just let your mom sleep. You guys stay inside. I got to go record. So I haven't got a phone call yet or a message. So
oh, God.
Hopefully everything's cool and the house is still up when I get there. But anyways, so back to the Montauk. And with like the Long Island Monster and things like that. There's always a little bit of truth behind some. There's always truth, a little bit of truth behind everything.
Behind every lie, there's a little bit of truth.
You know? So that means that something was there. And that's what's cool about what we do is that we look into that and we see, you know, we take what is said, research it, and then you get your evidence of what definitely was seen or said they seen, and then we can go off of that and find out what we believe. And for like me and you know, we like to dig into that, and we don't like to just shut it down. No, that's fake.
Yeah, no.
A lot of people...
There's a lot of stuff in this that I question, you know.
No, 100%. 100%. Okay. Well, that's like with the whole... Nichols. When he was talking, he comes out with a lot of things that are kind of...
He does. He contradicts himself a lot.
That you don't know. That you're like, okay, well, maybe, you know... Maybe this guy is a little bit crazy.
Right. But well, and Al Bielik's kind of the same way, too.
Right,
I mean,
right.
You know, both of these guys are,
and that's my point.
You know,
but some of what they said is legit because there's paperwork, there's documents behind it.
There's redacted paperwork.
Super redacted. But, you know, and that's my whole point with that is like if there's not something there,
why even mention
why redact it?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's just like with, you know, the whole JFK assassination thing. If there's nothing there, why do you keep redacting it?
Right.
Yeah. And like, put another 70 years on before we release that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's kind of there's another thing that's going on right now with something that's I can't really talk about it because if we mention it, well, they won't even let us put our shit on fucking YouTube. But something that has to do with injections, and they just redacted that paperwork and that store and that.
Oh yeah.
For what 75 years, I think they said. Or something like that we're not going to be able to know. And so my thing is, common sense tells me if there's nothing there, then why are you redacting it?
Right.
What's the problem here?
Right. Well, and they did the same kind of stuff with Area 51 and different things like that. What's interesting to me, and this is kind of, I'm getting off of the subject for a second just because it's fucking been blown up in the fucking news. What is up with these high-ranking officials taking top-secret documents to their own goddamn house?
Yeah.
You know, I look at this one of two ways. One, why are they doing it in the first place? And two, who gives a fuck?
I can tell you.
You know what I'm saying?
I can tell you why.
You know?
It's because you have something over someone.
Yeah.
If you, it's like this. Say me and you work.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I guarantee you, when fucking Donald Trump took office, the first thing he did was he sat down with all his fucking delegates and his fucking people and said, "I want to know about the fucking aliens.
Where's the fucking aliens? I want to see one now, right now. Show me the fucking aliens now." No, but here's what goes on with that. It's very simple. It's all blackmail shit.
Yeah.
You got some. I got paperwork.
I got something on you. You got something on me.
I take paperwork. I take paperwork home that is redacted to everyone else, but it's not redacted to me, and I have it, and at any point in time, I can release that shit if I want it to. Yeah. So make sure you keep those checks coming, or make sure, you know what I'm saying? This is that shit.
Yeah, I got some shit on a hooker with some LSD and a government official.
Hey, we'll get into that. But no, and that's the whole point of it. But my thing, what's cool, and what feeds the fire for me, coming from it with a common sense aspect, if there's no issues,
you don't have none of that.
I got a lot of that. That's a problem. I do have that, and most of the world doesn't, and it fucking pisses me off every day.
I got common sense. Ryan's got a common dollar.
Yes, common dollar. But no, I think that if something don't sound right, then it ain't right. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right. And I mean, it's that simple. If there's not a problem, then release the fucking papers.
Right.
If it's not an issue, then fucking release it. If there's nothing there, why are you hiding it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's like you're so full of shit, but then people believe it. So there you go. And that's why.
Well, you're always going to have those people in the crowd.
Yeah, yeah. And then for me, someone who believes things like this, you too, certain things we may not believe every bit of it, but there's aspect of it that we are highly interested in. So why? It's like if you say something and they know it's true and they don't want people to believe, they call you out. Oh, he's a conspiracy. He's a kook.
Sometimes you just disappear.
Yeah, or you disappear. You know what I mean? That's like with a lot of things. Like a lot of these doctors they try to get rid of, when just 4 years ago, they were top ranking, highest you could be, most respected, most published doctors in the world. Yeah. And then as soon as they say, well, this doesn't add up. Oh, he's a kook.
Yeah. You're right.
It's like, what are you talking about, man? But, that kind of stuff to me, it feeds the fuel for us. Right. Because that means there's something there for us.
There's something going on, and we're going to get to the bottom of it.
That's right. And that's what we're doing with the Montauk, and that's what we're going to be doing with Stargate. And, it's cool that
we're not getting to the bottom of it. We're just telling you about it.
Yeah, we want to get that information out there. So maybe someone who's smarter than us can get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, so maybe somebody smarter than us will come on the show and say, hey, this is what really happened.
But,
so any of you ex-government people that know the truth, drop us a line. HorrorChroniclespodcast@gmail.com. We're there for you, buddy.
Yeah.
We're there.
Yeah, don't worry. No one's listening. But,
he's right.
Yeah. It's funny because I hear people that I kind of respect as far as like what they say, where they're at and what they say and stuff like that. But then sometimes they talk about things and they're just like, oh, that's a conspiracy. That can't be true. It's just this and this. I'm like, you also believe that we live in a simulation. So, like, how are you going to not? How can you believe that we live in a simulation and that we're part of a computer network and shit, but you don't think that it's possible for the government to be fucking doing something shady?
Right. Well, they would never do that.
Oh, fuck, they wouldn't.
Oh, yeah.
Look at your taxes.
you ain't been around, buddy. You ain't been around.
But no. So the Montauk Project leads into, some pretty crazy shit and some pretty cool things that definitely the government has worked on.
Absolutely. And
that we have talked to people who kind of involved in it, and we will get on the show again. I may get a hold of...
I was involved in it.
Look at him.
Look at me. Don't I look like I'm telling the truth?
I don't know about that. He doesn't have any pants on, guys. So
that is true. That's the truth right there.
But no, so I think that I think next week I might try to shoot Jessica a message and see if maybe she's open.
That would be awesome.
Because with Stargate, awesome. That really gets into the
into her field.
Yeah, a lot. So
yeah, if we can get her on the show,
it's gonna be great. It'll be a great show no matter what.
Yeah, she's always good to have on.
With her, that's her deal. That's her job. That's her thing. So Jessica, we're gonna be hitting you up.
Maybe we could do a 4-way.
Oh,
with her and DA.
Ooh,
because that might be interesting too.
100%.
Get him on.
That's a great idea. So we need to get a hold of them. We'll get a hold of them once we get done with this.
Yeah.
So our next episode, guys, if you're listening to this, is going to be a fucking doozy. Hopefully, it's going to be no matter what. It's going to be a great episode because we're going to
even if they both tell us to fuck off, they don't want to do it. We're still going to come in and do it.
Right. So,
we just thought it might be more fun with more people that we can take down with us.
Yes.
What do you think of them apples?
But no, either way, it's going to be a great episode because we're getting the Stargate.
Oh yeah,
on the next episode, guys.
And MK Ultra.
So you're gonna want
to stick around for that.
It's gonna be a good one, folks. But thanks, horror fam.
That's gonna be a Patreon episode. You're gonna have to pay $50 to
$79.99.
Just kidding.
However,
y'all get this shit for free.
Right. But yeah, guys, definitely make sure that if you're still listening to this, make sure you listen to the next episode. We're going to be doing a series basically of this stuff. We're going to be going down this series of stuff, and you guys are really going to like it, I think. So
yeah, absolutely.
And so
it's cool shit.
Oh yeah, interesting stuff. And look into it yourself. But anyways, guys, we love you, horror fam. Thank you for support. You know that, and we're going to keep on rocking this stuff. But more importantly, as always, until next time, keep it creepy.